Okay, so I'm trying a little something different today, because, animation does take a lot out of me, so I was thinking about possibly streaming for now, because streaming reacting to some music industry content. It's quick, it's less work, you know. Hi, bud. Oh. Come here. Come here. Gotcha. Nice hello to the people. No. No. Okay. Run along now. Ow! What do you want? You! Um, so we're just gonna react to this, because honestly, the industry, it is a little fucked up at the moment because of the AI bullshit, and not doing too well for me as well, but, some things you have to get by of. But, let's check this out real quick. I'm just trying to, I also don't want to get slammed with a bunch of copyright claims, because, some things can do that. Uh, dude, you serious? Anyway, I'm just gonna go ahead and play this first video, because I got like a bunch of videos I got for this, but yeah. Normally I wouldn't use my music account, but I don't have a choice.
Industry is at a great place. BTS made a triumphant return with a new album. Harry Styles continued breaking records, while Taylor Swift is still dominating the charts with her relentless output. These superstars prove that at the very top, the music industry still delivers blockbuster moments. But bubbling under the 1% of the industry, a quiet crisis is unfolding. New music is struggling to break through like it once did. According
That is true. Because I started my career in like around 2010, or not 2020, 2017, but I made my first debut album 2019. It wasn't like a, you can't just throw out an album out there and expect things to happen. You have to, like, I don't know, there's some form of promotions you can do. I mean, the best way I've learned was just go and perform at places like venues, like, venues, something that they will take for a living. There's some venues like, I don't know, because currently I'm back here. I'm moving over. I'm moving out of where I'm living. So, where I'm going is, which is in Burlington or Vermont. They have a bunch of venues that you can perform at that basically have performance rights and all that. Um, it's very extremely hard to get into something, like, to get into like a music career. You have to promote your music frequently. You have to also find what's trending, or if you want to do something originality, it is it is very hard to do that. It's just kind of a 50-50. Mostly you should, at least people should, like, perform or do something in the real world, because a lot of times it's hard to actively just post something and then expect it to blow up. You have to have a way to promote it or such. We'll see how it works, but
to Luminous 2025 year-end report, for the first time, over 75% of all annual audio streams came from catalog music, songs older than 18 months rather than current releases, while music released in the previous 5 years still held a notable share. That slice has been shrinking. In this video, we'll analyze everything to see if new music is dying. By the end of 2025, music since 2021 accounted for just 43% of streams, which was a drop from the previous year. The data shows that people are sticking to the music they grew up with.
that is true. That is 100% true. So I have a good example of this. It's kind of, it is perfect, but it isn't at the same time. But this, I'm just gonna go to my distributor's website real quick just to give a quick look of what we're doing, what this means exactly. Of course, a lot of my streams come from, like, YouTube and whatever, or user generated content most likely. If you look at the stream data, right? What you're gonna see is, you're not gonna see much, because promoting stuff. I also do. I own a indie label, so I mostly handle a lot of people. But mostly, a lot of streams come from either Canada, or not Canada. That's the least of them. Botswana. I have no idea what that is. Must be Middle East. Um, Most of this comes from here because it matches by pattern. Um, that's basically what makes this thing so difficult to do because you got to promote it and whatever. And hopefully by promoting it, I can try to like perform at places. I'll definitely be doing that. So, I'm just going to like just again. I think this is. Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I had a problem with Twitter recently, and it just kind of like driving me nuts. Like they banned my Twitter, Twitter banned my company channel, which most of my promotions come from, which is it's very annoying. I'm probably going to do like a weird meme out of it at some point, so stick tuned for that. Um, I'm going. Okay, hold on. Just gonna help with this. Acting to content live on Twitch. Come, come, tune in. Okay. I pin this here. Again, I've seen a lot of people's getting banned lately. It's really weird, but anyway.
rather than exploring new music. At the same time, older catalogs are experiencing a renaissance. Hits from the 1980s and 1990s saw their combined market share jump from 6.9% in 2024 to 9.7% in 2025, while music from the 2000s rose slightly to 11%. This catalog dominance is clearly visible beyond the numbers. Take a look at the current top 20 of the UK weekly album chart. Nearly half of it consists of greatest hits and has the lowest proportion of new albums in years, despite overall streaming and listener numbers growing significantly in the years since. Record labels have lived by the mantra, you can't have timeless catalog records tomorrow without investing in new music today. But the data tells a more worrying story. While a handful of global superstars continue to thrive, the broader ecosystem of breaking and sustaining new artists feels increasingly fragile. New releases often debut.
Yeah, because trying to release an album in this time frame is very difficult. Because I work with other artists. Like one of them has like a 5K sub on YouTube as well, but he is struggling. Like he is typically struggling. Not struggling to keep a fan base, but like he doesn't really remember how to, not like in a bad way. Again, Elijah, if he's watching this, you do need to promote more of your songs. That is 100% true, because you can't just assume promoting something overnight will just hit. Like that's what a lot of people forget. This is his channel. Like he's got like 5.28K. That is good. I mean, that is really, really good. Some of this is my content too, but honestly, it would help if like he realized what's going on exactly. Again, I think he's the biggest guy I've worked with that has potential, if that makes sense. But
with strong streaming numbers, only to drop off the charts quickly without building real cultural staying power. Even when you look at the Billboard 200, there are ever-present albums like Drake's Take Care, Michael Jackson's Number Ones, and Fleetwood Mac's Rumors. The result is a polarized industry where the mega rich get richer and everyone else fights for scraps, in an oversaturated market that rewards nostalgia over novelty. As music from previous decades continue to claim larger shares, the pressure on new releases grows heavier. It's a challenge to get attention as a new artist these days. Record labels are no longer pushing new artists, as they already own the classics, and they are guaranteed successes. 2025 was notably lacking in break.
That is very much true, because I could have gotten a big record deal in 2019. Don't get me wrong. Where's my phone? Um, it is very difficult to get into the industry nowadays. Like you gotta literally push to the absolute limits. And for me, I like to stick to original stuff, like stuff that's original that doesn't sound like the same thing you would normally listen to as like most independent people. Because what people don't forget is what most people are doing now is aiming for that, like, I don't know, like, aiming for the most amount of streams, the most amount of, like, whatever you can get, like a quick TikTok trend or whatever. That's not how I am. I like to, like, actively record music that people would, kind of like experimenting with things. And most people don't understand is you gotta put your foot in the door if you're gonna ever make it in the industry. It's not going to just happen over time. You absolutely need to like put your foot in there and expect it to work. You can't just do it like in one go. You can't just like post one album and hope it blows up. That's not how it works exactly. And that's what most people forget about the industry itself. That is 100% true.
Breakout hits, with only 23 tracks cracking the top charts in the first half of the year, compared to 49 during the same period in 2024. 2026 has continued this trend, getting off to a historically slow start for new releases. In January 2026, current year tracks claimed 3.5% of Spotify's global top 50, a sharp decline from the previous January's 26% in January 2025, boosted heavily by Bad Bunny's Debitar Más Fotos, 9.4% in January 2024 and 8.4% in January 2023. The data paints a clear picture. New music is struggling.
Yeah, I got a moth infestation. You killed them, they just keep coming back. Ugh. Anyway.
The way it once did. While 2023 and 2024 were relatively healthy years for fresh releases, with current year tracks consistently holding around 64% of Spotify's global top 50. 2025 felt stagnant and dominated by holdover hits. The traditional song of the summer was nowhere to be found, replaced instead by a nostalgia phenomenon heavily boosted by TikTok. Throwbacks from Zara Larsson, Dominic Fike, and even The Police enjoyed major revivals. On Spotify's top 10 biggest stream songs of 2025, only 3 were actually 2025 releases: Ordinary by Alex Warren, DTMF by Bad Bunny, and Golden by Hundred from the Netflix film K-pop Demon Hunters. The rest of the year belonged to older tracks that refused to fade away. The new releases that did arrive in 2025 and early 2026 largely failed to generate crossover pop appeal. Artist after artist was flopping. They usually hold top 50 positions for only 1 or 2 days before dropping off dramatically. Even Bruno Mars's highly anticipated project The Romantic failed to replicate his previous chart dominance. In the first quarter of 2026 alone, 197 distinct tracks appeared in Spotify's global top 50, but a staggering 116 of them were holdovers from previous years, leaving just 81 new releases. This is a noticeable decline. While Apple Music's global top 100 shows slightly better representation for new music, the overall trend remains concerning. New music is simply not commanding the attention or longevity it once did. The numbers don't lie. The music industry is experiencing a clear shift, whether this is due to audience fatigue or lack of crossover hits, as we are all stuck in our own bubbles. 2025 and early 2026 have been among the weakest periods for new music in recent memory. As the year progresses, the big question remains: can the industry reverse this trend, or do they even want to? The music industry in the mid-2020s is facing a strange paradox. More music is being released than ever before, but it feels like fewer artists are truly breaking through and becoming lasting superstars. In 2024, the industry experienced a short-lived boom of fresh pop voices, only for the wave to quickly fade away. This growing sense that everyone's flopping has sparked serious conversations about who's the next generation to carry music forward. A major reason for this stagnation is the complete fragmentation of music consumption. Unlike previous decades, when audiences gathered around the same radio stations, MTV, or weekly countdown shows, today's listeners are scattered around across dozens of platforms: TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, Spotify playlists.
Oh, there is one way I do try to at least come up with a strategy for this. Yeah, I don't think so. Okay, it would be better if, like, basically I would, like, for example, I would go out by word of mouth, like, word of mouth, say, hey, basically they're over here, like, to start a conversation with a, like, yes, it's a rando, but it is worth, at least it's an idea. Like, again, it depends. You do require consent to do this, but go up to the person, say, hey, have you ever heard, like, a musician, artist, or whatever, check it out, whatever, like, make sure you start a conversation with the person a bit, just, like, start a random conversation. Don't, like, just stick to one topic, because they're gonna think you're a telemarketer just trying to pass it along. And then I would also recommend the second idea is just to go up and just ask what works, what doesn't, what basically word of mouth perform. See, it's the easiest free marketing you can possibly do at the moment.
Apple Music, and more. This has largely dissolved the shared monoculture that once propelled new artists to massive stardom. We are all living in our own little worlds now. While certain songs occasionally break through and become widely known, they rarely achieve the universal cultural penetration of past eras. Instead of everyone experiencing the same breakout moment at the same time, success is now more niche, making it harder for new stars to emerge and sustain long-term careers. Because of the availability of cheap recording equipment, there is an overwhelming volume of new music being released daily that has only added to the problem. In 2025 alone, there were close to 30,000 releases every single day. This flood of content makes it incredibly difficult for any individual song or artist to stand out. With so much music competing for the same limited listening time, even talented newcomers often get buried before they can build momentum. As a result, the traditional model of launching and growing new superstars is becoming obsolete in the modern streaming age. Artist development is becoming an old concept, as labels want the artists to build their fan base first before investing. While music is more abundant than ever, the pathway to genuine stardom appears to be narrowing. Without a shared monoculture to amplify that talent, only time will tell if the industry will adapt before it all.
That is true. Labels do want you to grow your career first, like gain like a fan base just to do something. Well, like quite a bit ago, it used to be different. Like it did require, like it does require a lot of work to get a fan base. It would just basically, like I just said, if you do those two steps, a lot of indie artists have a potential to actually try something. I mean, it is hard if you're going to be trying to perform in one area and then the worst part of the next. It does, like, it will suck a lot of life out of you, but it is something you want to, you want to do that first. But yeah. You do need, like, I tried AWOL and they just completely refused to take me, which I did find someone that did eventually, but
It all comes crumbling down. Some hits staying around for a long time instead of a healthy rotation of fresh hits. The upper reaches of the Billboard Hot 100 are dominated by a small group of superstar songs that debut at the top and then cling on to the chart for an unusually long time. This dominance has created a bottleneck where only a handful of established names can consistently command attention, leaving emerging artists and even solid mid-tier releases struggling to find space. A perfect example of this phenomenon is Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars's Die With a Smile. Released in August 2024, it quickly became a global phenomenon. The song claimed the #1 spot on the Billboard Hot 100 and stayed there for 5 weeks, going on to become Spotify's longest-serving daily #1 song in the platform's history. The song's success perfectly shows how only the biggest superstars can still generate that kind of instant, sustained impact. At the same time, it's taking shorter time for songs to reach streaming milestones. The record for the fastest time to reach 1 billion Spotify streams is held by Die With a Smile, which only spent 96 weeks to reach that milestone. It is followed by Apata by Rose and Bruno Mars, 7 by Jungkook and Latto, Flowers by Miley Cyrus, and Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter, all songs that came out after 2023. At the same
not
time,
a huge Sabrina
songs
person.
that are staying on the charts longer than at any point in Billboard's history. Teddy Swims' Lose Control shattered records by spending a staggering 80 weeks in the top 10 of the Hot 100. That's more than a year and a half. In fact, every song that currently holds the record for the longest time spent in the top 10 was released after 2020. Once the industry finds a song that audience resonate with, it milks it relentlessly, pushing it heavily for far longer than in previous decades. This extreme longevity, however, eventually forced Billboard to step in. In October 2025, the chart introduced recurrent rules designed to create more turnover. Under the new system, songs are removed from the Hot 100 if they fell out of the top 5 after 78 weeks, below the top 10 after 52 weeks, below the top 25 after 26 weeks, or below the top 50 after 20 weeks. Die With a Smile became one of the first high-profile victims of these changes, ending its impressive 60-week run on the chart. While the rule change was necessary to prevent the Hot 100 from becoming completely stagnant, it also highlighted the deeper issue. The current system heavily favors proven hits, making it even harder for new music to break through. The music industry is witnessing a clear and concerning trend. First week album sales and overall consumption numbers have been steadily declining, particularly for mid-tier and even established artists. In the past, a solid debut was around 250,000 to 400,000 range for a major pop or hip-hop release. Today, that benchmark has dropped off significantly. If you remove Taylor Swift's historic record-shattering first-week numbers, the average units required to reach #1 on the Billboard 200 in 2025 was around 180,000 units for many decent, well-established artists. This has resulted in what feels like consistent commercial disappointment. Projects that would have did decent at a different time are now being labeled as flops. Even the upper echelon of superstar artists, while still being capable of posting impressive opening weeks, are not immune to flops. Many new albums experience a sharp drop-off after the opening week. This creates a boom or bust environment, where the first week essentially determines the entire commercial narrative of the project. That's why some artists have resorted to bundling clothes and even ticket sales with their album releases just to boost first week sales. Even though there have been slow burn successes like The Art of Loving by Olivia Dean and The Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess by Chaperone, they are few and far between. A major reason behind this shift is changing listener behavior. Unlike individual songs, which can live indefinitely on playlists, new albums rarely stay in regular rotation. Most listeners still gravitate towards their comfort album, the familiar classics that they already know and love. This has made it increasingly difficult for fresh releases to build long-term momentum. As a result, even well-reviewed and heavily promoted albums often feel like they come and go quickly. This decline signals a deeper transformation in how music is discovered, consumed, and valued in the streaming age. While megastars can still manufacture massive opening weeks through their dedicated fan base, the middle to lower tiers of the industry are struggling more than ever, without a viral moment to give them a boost. Most new albums are finding it harder to break through the noise. The data is clear. First week sales and overall album consumption are in decline, and the industry must adapt to a future where sustained engagement has become the real currency of success.
That is totally,
Nothing is
that is
sacred in
true.
popular music. What feels ubiquitous today can quickly become obsolete as tastes change quickly. Four genres, rock, soul, pop, and hip hop, each rode powerful waves before facing periods of decline. Pop exploded in the early 1980s and is still dominant, becoming one of the only genres that is still producing new stars, along with country to some extent. Rock has retreated from mainstream charts, surviving more on legacy artists. The most streamed rock songs at this moment are all from the 90s and 2000s, and hip hop, which was the voice of a generation for a long time, has seen its market share slip noticeably. Over the past 2 years, hip hop's share of Billboard and Spotify hits has declined, culminating in a striking moment in October 2025, when for the first time in more than 35 years, there were 0 hip-hop songs in the Billboard Hot 100's Top 40. This absence marked a low
Yeah,
point for
I
the
think that's
genre
kind
that
of.
dominated commercial charts for decades.
Now you see, like, a lot of people forget, like, when you write songs, if you there's a way to write songs that have to focus on just hip hop, and hip hop is kind of one of those genres that just doesn't work out. And I have been tempting to switch from hip hop to pop because it's the only thing that I've seen that actually has more potential. Like, that's kind of just how it is. You can't, if you're gonna make a breakthrough, you most likely want to skip hip hop entirely and go straight to pop or something, whatever works, whatever you think your sound is gonna sound better in. But for me, for a longest time, I thought my music sounded like hip hop, but in a reality, my music instead sound more like they sound more like hip hop, like not hip hop but pop, because I got that popish tone, but I still use hit hats to create that feeling. And honestly, I think it might be time for a genre change because it would make more sense. So yeah,
There are no new hip hop stars, as the ones still dominating, like Ye, Drake, and Kendrick Lamar, are pushing 40 or way past that. Compare that to even the late 2010s, where young artists like XXXTentacion and Juice WRLD were dominating. The genre has fallen off. Ultimately, new music is kinda dying, but the old model of how it succeeds is the industry must acknowledge uncomfortable truths. The endless release cycle is exhausting listeners. The reliance on short-term streaming metrics is killing long-term catalog value, and the pressure to consistently chase trends is producing disposable music that doesn't connect with people on a deeper level. Let's compare artists then and now. How can you connect with Playboi Carti's music that has no substance compared to artists like Kendrick or even Drake, who put their whole story in their music? In pop, compare Sabrina Carpenter and Taylor Swift. Sabrina blew up because of flirty, sexy bops that are amazing to listen to, but compare that to Taylor's personal songwriting. The fans' investment in their careers is different. The data shows that new music is not performing as well as the old classics. With every artist struggling to make noise, it paints a bleak picture, and the attention economy getting more crowded. It's worrying times for the music industry, unless something changes.
that is really true because it is hard to keep it's hard to keep something because you need some inspiration for a story. Which my songwriting is mostly about my personal childhood, like rough childhood. So um let me see if there's another song, another video that I can pick up here. I normally don't just stick to like writing just music, but I mean, I'm starting to shift over to start to music videos and whatever. Not even just music videos, just typical stuff. Let's see, no, I don't need what the. Uh, Trying to find a video that just doesn't like have copyright strikes and whatever. I could watch that for laughs, but you know. Not sure. It's just kind of hard to pick something that works right now. Alright, let's see what this is about. Her Mighty Ball.
At the
Ball is good.
2025 Grammys, Sabrina Carpenter was nominated for Best New Artist, which is ironic because she's on her 6th studio album and has been in the music industry for over a decade. I was roughly aware of her career before, so seeing her sudden explosion to fame in the past couple of years was surprising, and obviously not just to me since many others were calling her an industry plant at the time. After a little digging, I found out her massive burst in popularity followed her exiting of Hollywood Records, which is Disney's record label they use for their pop stars, which makes sense since Sabrina had been on the show Girl Meets World. I'd heard rumors about Hollywood Records signing their actors/musicians to predatory contracts, being super controlling of their artists, and also fumbling many of their big names. So I assumed Hollywood Records was holding her back and being too controlling, especially since she even said she doesn't view her first few albums under Disney as part of her discography. So to see if this is actually the case with Sabrina and just how bad of a record label Hollywood Records is, I wanted to dig a little deeper, and what I found was crazy. Music has been a crucial foundation of Disney's business model since its beginning back in 1923. Whether it's through the 1928 release of Steamboat Willie, which was the debut of Mickey Mouse, or decades later to 1994 with The Lion King and its massive songs like Circle of Life, Can You Feel the Love Tonight, and many more. To this day, music is obviously very important to Disney's media as they make movies and shows with iconic soundtracks. And it may be surprising to hear that they have their own record labels, but it kind of makes sense. Early on, since neither Walt or Roy Disney had any music industry experience, they had to rely on outside music publishers. On top of this, to raise funds, they even sold off the rights to a ton of their classic soundtracks, like for example Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Pinocchio, and Dumbo. As the company grew, Disney eventually stepped into the music world themselves with the incorporation of Walt Disney Music Company in 1949. At the time, its main purpose was just to publish and license songs from Cinderella. They also started experimenting with original non-film music. Basically, they started making songs that had nothing to do with their movies or their shows. And it did lead to a handful of successful songs, but for every non-film hit, there was a multitude more that flopped. Regardless, they knew the potential for making money was there. And in the following decades, they opened a bunch of Disney sub-labels. One of the first was Wonderland Music Company in 1959. Then later came Disneyland Records in 1956, Buena Vista Records in 1959, Hollywood Records in 1989, Lyric Street Records in 1997, and in that same year, Disney purchased Mammoth Records as well. By creating or purchasing these different labels, Disney had all of their bases covered in pretty much every genre. And it wasn't just for music directly related to shows or movies, but the main label that's important to focus on here is Hollywood Records. Hollywood Records is Disney's main branch out into the realm of popular music, and for a long time it was actually one of their biggest failures. As mentioned earlier, Disney wanted to expand their music operations by looking to develop and promote the careers of a wide variety of artists in various genres. But before Disney decided to start taking full advantage of their child stars, Hollywood Records struggled. Early on, they failed to sign popular new artists like Nirvana, The Smashing Pumpkins, Naughty by Nature, Cypress Hill, and even Dr. Dre. In Dr. Dre's case, the deal was just about to be made until higher-ups in the command chain shut the deal down because of Dre's lyrics and image. And while Disney wanting to maintain a squeaky clean image does make sense, this example gives you a good glimpse into Hollywood Records' goals. They weren't a label made to empower artist expression or creativity, they just wanted to make money. They got their first big win in 1990 after securing the distribution rights to Queen's entire catalog, but then Freddie Mercury died just a year later. It was still able to generate them some revenue though, and it gave them some hope, but they had a much bigger fumble coming their way. Basically, Disney had this recurring show called the Mickey Mouse Club, which started in the 1950s and was revamped a couple of times. And by the show's third run in the early 90s, it featured skits and other performances all in front of a live studio audience. During the two seasons in 1993 and 94, the cast included not only Justin Timberlake, but also Christina Aguilera and Britney Spears. With how massive of names they are today, you must be thinking the Mickey Mouse Club had to have gone crazy back then. Well, not quite. Immediately after those two seasons concluded, the show was canceled. Within just 5 years of the show's end, all three performers already went multi-platinum. From 1995 to 1998, Hollywood Records was in financial and structural turmoil. A bunch of the issues stemmed from bouncing president to president, at times going for over a year with no head to the branch at all. And to kick off a chaotic era, Hollywood Records was forced to fire its top staff producer, Mark Hudson, following some harassment complaints. When Mark was first reported for making lewd comments and pressuring female employees to go on dates, instead of immediately firing him, Hollywood Records moved the victims to different departments and sent Mark to a Disney-recommended specialist for counseling. But the problem didn't end there, as in the following months, more and more women came forward with complaints. For a little bit, Hollywood Records tried to sweep it all under the rug. That was until Seconds magazine published an interview with a former actress who appeared in the Broadway play Annie, and who is now a recording artist with Sony's Epic Records. In the interview, she also spoke of harassment from Mark, which finally prompted Hollywood Records to fire him, a PR decision that came a lot later than it probably should have. To sum up how bad this label was doing on top of all the controversy, going into 1997, Hollywood Records reported around $150 million in losses since 1990. Overall, the 90s were a complete failure for Disney's record label. They even destroyed one of the previously successful labels they purchased after running Mammoth Records into the ground. As a result, there were some major changes that needed to happen. Disney has a ton of child stars that many of us know and love today. And as I'm sure most of you are aware, not only did a lot of them have acting careers, but they also had music careers too, with a handful of them becoming very successful. And this was all according to Disney's plan. After having Justin Timberlake, Christina Aguilera, and Britney Spears slip through their hands, Disney and Hollywood Records probably thought, and I'm just guessing how the board meeting went, but they probably met up and said, why don't we just have the kids that already work for us do all the work, and then sign them to bad record deals and overwork them and control every aspect of their lives like robots to perfect the actor-singer model we previously missed out on. Sounds like a great idea. It started with Hilary Duff and her show Lizzie McGuire, with the first season dropping in 2001. The show portrays the life and issues of a teen girl, and pretty much it was an instant hit. Early on in the show, Disney has Lizzie show an interest in pop stars. Disney was clearly salty about losing Britney Spears.
I have to skip that. I don't trust myself with that. That's got to be copyrighted. Probably should just skip that.
This is also when it became apparent that their record label wasn't quite the best, with Hilary's mom, who was her manager at the time, saying, Disney thought they'd be able to bully us into accepting whatever offer they wanted to make, and they couldn't. Around this time, Disney had Hilary put out her debut album, Metamorphosis, which went 4 times platinum. By this point, Hilary Duff was pretty much Disney's OG pop star, and Hilary Duff was a good example of 2 things to come with Disney's new pop stars. 1, they had the method figured out for how to create the actor/singer double threats, but 2, we also saw a glimpse in many more problems to come, whether it be poor pay, being overly controlling, and bad contracts. With Hilary Duff, Disney was basically trying to recreate a kid-friendly version of Britney Spears, who they missed out on in the past. And while it worked out for a while, she clearly didn't have enough staying power, and Hilary Duff ended up only being the prototype. In retrospect, Hilary expressed extreme discontentment with the creative aspects and decisions she was allowed to make with her music. She said, "When you're under the control of a label, you don't always get to have the sound you like. If I could change it, I would. And it would sound less pop. My name is Hilary Duff, and I don't know why I don't get to make Hilary Duff music. I just have to get the freedom to do it. And during the show, I do get to do that. I get to throw away all of the CD stuff that has been mastered and sounds really pretty, and I get to sing live." Even later on, when she released music that didn't perform nearly as well, she said that she was at least happy and it felt original and authentic. Ironically, some Redditors pointed out that Hilary Duff had 2 greatest hits albums and 0 top 10 singles, which was pretty much just to fulfill her contract and get her out of her horrible Hollywood's record deal. Since, you know, it's a little early on to put out greatest hits albums in your catalog when you're a kid. And since she was signed to a multi-album deal at just 14, combined with the earlier pay bullying complaints from her mom, you can only imagine how atrocious the details of her contract were. But she was only the first victim of Disney's record labels. After the Hilary Duff experiment fizzled out, Disney's new strategy had potential, and they decided to completely lean into this. Disney began hunting for some more child stars to convert into pop stars, playing around with this idea in movies like High School Musical, which was extremely successful. After seeing the success of Lizzie McGuire in High School Musical, Disney basically tried to combine the both into a concept, and that resulted in Hannah Montana. As I'm sure many of you remember, the first season of Hannah Montana, starring Miley Cyrus, was a smash hit. All of the soundtracks went crazy, and Disney decided to have Miley Cyrus make her own debut album as well, and this also performed great. Around this time, Disney also signed the Jonas Brothers and introduced Selena Gomez as well. Selena Gomez showed up in Wizards of Waverly Place. The Jonas Brothers did the Camp Rock movie, which also brought their their next star, Demi Lovato. Over the next few years, Disney was aggressively developing each of these young performers into the next generation of pop stars at whatever cost necessary. The next few years went as followed. Miley's debut album went platinum. Demi's debut album went gold. The Jonas Brothers album went platinum. Selena appeared in Another Cinderella Story, which is the sequel to the original Hillary movie. Then Disney uses this momentum to launch her debut album, which went platinum. Demi got her own show, Sunny with a Chance. The Jonas Brothers got their own show, Jonas. And by this point, all four stars not only had their own shows, but also performed the intro songs on them. Disney was pumping out content from each of these stars left, right, and center, which honestly started raising some red flags about child labor. I mean, Miley ended up dropping the Diamond Classic Party in the USA at just 16, so Hollywood Records was not going to stop anytime soon. As the years went by, the shows ran their course, and Disney's megastars rapidly aged out of their demographic. Things started to change. After getting some subpar ratings, Demi and the brothers' shows were basically canceled. On top of this, the brothers took a break from each other, and Demi was forced into a treatment facility. Then Miley put out the song Can't Be Tamed, which was a clear sign she was growing tired of the whole Hannah Montana thing. And when Hannah Montana did officially end, all Disney had left was Selena with Wizards, which is nothing to scoff at since she was putting out albums that performed well, but again, this didn't last forever. Everything was falling apart with Disney's new pop stars, and it wasn't because of the stars themselves. The cracks were about to reveal some dark truths behind the screen. Some fans were trying to blame like social media and stuff like that, but details from behind the scenes tell a very different story. In Miley's case, she had a very similar sentiment as Hilary Duff, expressing no creative control. The simplest way to explain how desperately she wanted out of her Hollywood Records deal and to make her own stuff can be explained by her projects around the end. Can't Be Tamed was her last album with Hollywood Records, and the cover speaks for itself. Soon after this, Miley left Disney and then came with the controversial album Bangers. It contained the shockingly viral song and accompanying music video for both Wrecking Ball and Weak.
That's good.
Naked is a pretty insane
I
pivot
had to
for an
skip that.
ex-Disney star, and
Yeah,
as I'm
copyright
sure many of
issues
you
again.
remember, this was like the biggest thing at the time. I remember I was like 12 and I told my uncle I watched that video and he snitched on me. Crazy. With such an extreme and sudden change, Miley's creative decisions were clearly pent up under years of being boxed in by Disney's suffocating PR machine. On top of this, she was just simply overworked during her time with Disney. She said that at just 12 years old and for years following, she had to be up at 5:30 a.m. for 12-hour workdays Monday through Friday and sometimes weekends.
I'm probably like 12 or 13. Friday, January 5th, 5:30 a.m. Hair and makeup in my hotel. 7 a.m. we get picked up. 7:15 I'm on the news. 7:45 I have another live interview. 8:15 another interview. 8:45 another interview. 9:30 to 11 a.m. meeting with editors. Back to the hotel. Okay, I have to do an interview, but the reporters are all 5th grade students. 1 to 2:30, me and my dad have a lunch interview. 2:40, we have to go to the Life magazine photo shoot. 3 to 5, interview and photo shoot for the Father's Day issue. Arrive at 6 p.m. for Kids Online interview. Then at 6:15, we have another interview. Then the next day starts at 7 a.m. and ends at 7:30 p.m. I'm a lot of things, but lazy ain't one of them.
And she's not the only one from the pop star era to experience this kind of treatment. Selena had something similar to those already mentioned, but she was a lot less vocal about Disney. In one interview, she reflected on the controlling levels of PR and imaging, saying, "I don't want to be anything that's a show or a persona. I just don't." And she was also forced to release an insane amount of content, which led to an overwhelming schedule for such a young kid. And ironically, another editor noticed that Hilary Duff and Selena Gomez both released greatest hits albums to get out of their Hollywood Records contracts, which seems to be another example of an artist growing up and saying, maybe I don't want to be under this overbearing PR machine of a label. These were all experienced by the Jonas Brothers too, but they also had some more negative things specific to their time with Disney as well. After realizing that they were too old to stay with Disney, they left the company and exposed Disney for a ton of insane business operations, including doing drugs with child stars, hooking up with Jonas Brothers fans, and slamming Disney Channel's media strategies. The brothers mentioned that while Disney quickly launched their careers, the experience wasn't as pleasant as it might have looked. Joe described the process of making their show saying, "It just ended up being some weird slapstick humor that only a 10-year-old would laugh at. They took out the kissing scene that Nick had. I had to shave every day because they wanted me to pretend like I was 16 when I was 20. When the show was done, I cut my hair off and grew as much of a beard as I could." And in a later interview, Joe straight up said that he thinks that Disney outright ruins their child stars, pointing mainly to the insane image control and specifically mentioning Vanessa Hudgens' 2007 photo leak, which led to her spending hours in the Disney offices on lockdown. Joe further explained the PR PR machine, saying, "If a lyric was slightly sexual, someone at the record company would tell us we had to change it. It could be the most innocent reference, like 'I'm alone in a room with you,' and it would have to go. It felt like we couldn't be creative, so we stopped listening to them and started handing shit in." Experiences like these were common for the Jonas Brothers, and it overlapped with other stars as well. Joe apparently had a secret relationship with Demi Lovato just months before she went into rehab. During this time, he witnessed a lot, all while under the pressure of Disney. He said, "I really got to know her and got to see the ins and outs of what she was struggling with, like drug abuse. I felt like I needed to take care of her, but at the same time, I was living a lie. Because I wasn't happy, but felt like I had to stay in it for her, because she needed help. I couldn't express any of that, of course, because I had a brand to protect." And on top of this, he also exposed that the first time he tried weed was underage with Demi and Miley while on set. So the whole Disney image was a facade. While they forced their young stars to have this perfect image, and it just was so forced, fake, and overwhelming. But the artist who probably had the worst experience under them was Demi Lovato. Demi said during an interview on the Call Her Daddy podcast that being overworked and controlled as a Disney child star sparked eating disorders and drug abuse, claiming she was barricaded in hotels to stop her from eating and was denied treatment even after she vomited blood. Demi also added on, saying she felt pressure to maintain an overwhelming workload because a new star could take her place at any time. To cope with all the pressure, she turned to drugs and alcohol, all around the age of 16 years old. She was also financially supporting her whole family, which made things even worse. And Disney was the company pushing these intense hours and intense schedules, all to fuel their giant pop star machine. Demi spoke out on the Disney image expectation, which pressured their stars to be the perfect role models for millions of fans. And as a threat or warning, she said that Disney would always mention how she's replaceable if she acted up. So while Demi seemingly experienced some of the worst of it all, I'm sure there's others out there who haven't spoken up about it who had a much worse time at Disney. Because they had overworked their artists, been super overbearing with the PR, and given them no creative control, as well as just trapping them in horrible deals, Hollywood Records and Disney pretty much forced these artists out of the label, which is why a couple of them were putting out greatest hits albums just to fulfill their contracts. But because of just how successful they had been with their pop stars and how much money they probably made, they were going to keep trying to have some pop star / actors under their thumb, with them now setting their eyes on Sabrina Carpenter and Olivia Rodrigo. Hollywood Records was still trying, though, to recreate the pop star phenomenon they once had. At this point, they still had over 25 up-and-coming artists signed to the label. But since you probably can't remember any of them from around the time Frozen came out, I'm sure you can imagine how their careers panned out. At this point, the future of Disney and its pop stars looked extremely uncertain, but the Disney machine wasn't finished yet. Ironically, Sabrina Carpenter ended up getting discovered by Disney after being one of 7,000 to enter an online singing contest called The Next Miley Cyrus Project. The contest was actually run by Miley, so it's crazy they had her running her own replacement contest. Sabrina was eventually cast in Girl Meets World in 2013. The show ran for 72 episodes and ended in 2017. Similar to her predecessors, she recorded the theme song, and in 2014 she signed to Hollywood Records. They locked her into a 5-album deal when she was just 14 years old. In the following years, she went on multiple tours and released 4 studio albums, all of which had very limited success, especially when you compare it to where she's at today. By the release of Sabrina's 4th album with Hollywood Records, it was obvious she was over the teen pop scene as more adult themes started coming up in the music. But Sabrina wasn't the only artist Disney had their eyes on, because in 2016, Olivia Rodrigo was cast on Bizaardvark. After playing that role for a little bit, she was in a High School Musical movie, and after seeing a little success on the music side, she decided to go a slightly different route. She didn't sign with Hollywood Records despite them most likely offering her a deal, and she decided to go with another label. In 2020, Olivia signed a deal with Interscope Records instead of Hollywood. And you might be wondering, why would she do that? Was she like super genius? Did she know what was about to happen? Well, sort of, because of what happened to Sabrina. To many fans' surprise, in 2021, Sabrina announced she was signing to Island Records before finishing her 5-album deal with Disney. Sabrina was expressing how exhausted and overworked she felt working with Disney, and she also said she lacked creative control, saying, "The amount of times that I really believed in a song, those weren't the songs that had music videos. A lot of the time, you're getting introduced to these songwriters, and it's like speed dating. I was meeting someone, and then having to tell them all about my life in 30 minutes, and then writing a song in 1 day. It felt so impersonal, and I never felt like I was telling the truth." And we're not quite sure how she got out of her 5-album deal, because she never fully fulfilled it, but like I said, she doesn't even consider the Disney albums as part of her discography, saying, "For the people who love those early records and listen to them, I love you for that. But I personally feel a sense of separation from them, largely due to the shift in who I am as a person and as an artist, pre-pandemic and post-pandemic." And after finding out some Hollywood Records info in an interview with Nardwuar, Sabrina let out how she really felt.
This is my debut album.
On vinyl. Very rare, isn't it?
I don't even have it. That's how rare it is.
Only 200 made, given to record execs.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
Not given to you?
No, or maybe at the time, but I don't know. I moved a couple times in the middle.
Oh, so you might have had it.
Only 200 made? Damn.
Or less.
They really didn't give a about me.
Ironically, even though Sabrina and Olivia sort of had a little bit of a beef, it seems like Olivia learned from Sabrina and all the other Disney pop stars' mistakes. And unlike many of the others who at least went on to have pretty massive music careers while with Disney, Zendaya probably served as another example or warning, but this time as one that never even got that far in the music industry to begin with. You might be wondering, Zendaya is one of the biggest stars to come from Disney, but why wasn't she making music like pretty much every other star from the time? Well, she said, "I think the music industry takes a little bit of passion away from you. It sucks you dry a little bit. What I thought I wanted, it's not what I want anymore. Especially when I think about what I had to deal with in the music industry. If anyone asks my number one advice, for the entertainment industry in general, but mostly the music industry, it's look over those contracts, every single word, and don't sign anything that isn't worth it to you. You are worth more than they will say you are."
Most of her experience in the music industry, by the way, was with Hollywood Records. She like released a couple songs after them, but that was pretty much it. So obviously she's probably talking about them.
So clearly Disney loves to exploit their young child stars, take advantage of them, control them, mold them into the perfect kid-friendly stars they can be, and overwork them and a bunch of other things. Hollywood Records really is one of the worst record labels, as well as the Disney machine that kind of made them these musical acting double threats. They clearly held back their artists and didn't let them be what they truly wanted to, which is why when you see artists like Sabrina or Miley leave and then later see way more success, or when artists like Olivia Rodrigo don't sign at all and are very successful, it makes a lot of sense when you know what's going on behind the scenes. If you like this video, you might like my video where I talk about non-rap diss tracks, where I talk about Sabrina Carpenter and Olivia Rodrigo's kind of funny beef and love triangle thing. So make sure to click the video that's on screen right now.
Okay, I guess I'm gonna take a break for now, but that was just reacting to some music content. Music industry content. Make sure to like and follow, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.